today I want to give some spoiler-free recommendations for 3 different young adult series. Hey guys, welcome back to Book Reviews with Emma. Today I want to show you guys 3 different young adult books or series that I think that you will enjoy and that you should pick up to read during quarantine. First off, we have Suzanne Collins, and she wrote The Hunger Games. I'm sure almost everyone has heard about The Hunger Games, but this is her less popular series called Gregor and the Overlander. Suzanne is very well known for The Hunger Games and her great young adult writing, and this is not an exception. Although it is not very well known, at least I had never heard that she had another series out, it is a great read to pick up for some younger readers. I'm going to read the back of the book for you so you can get like a brief little interview with it. So, when Gregor follows his little sister through a grate in the laundry room of their apartment building, he hurtles into a dark underland beneath the city. There, humans live uneasily beside giant spiders, bats, cockroaches, and rats, but their fragile peace is about to fall apart. So that's not the whole back of the book, but this is a classic like faction against faction series, and it takes a different twist because it's the darker, deeper underworld where there's cockroaches and rats the size of like horses, and people ride and fly on bats, and it's a beautifully creepy world underneath the city that we all know, and Gregor and his sister somehow have a connection to it. Not just because they fell in, but because of other reasons and the unrest that's happening in the underworld. The people in the underworld are humans, but a little bit different because they've been living under there for so long. They're super pale, they've barely ever seen the sun, if at all, and they don't have the same culture as humans, which is kind of a funny instance that we get to see. Along with one of the best parts of this series is that we get to have this young boy trying to take care of his little sister, and that brings in a lot of humor because he doesn't know what he's doing and his sister like gets into trouble, and it's just cute and adorable and an innocent story that also has a lot of meaning with factions, government, and secret worlds that we all know and love. So Gregor the Overlander is part of the Overlander Chronicles, and it's a 5-book series. They're all pretty short and quick reads. I've only read the first one so far, but I'm planning on reading the rest of them. I own all of the books, and they're also pretty cheap, so keep that in mind if you're on a budget for reading as well. And I think it's just a nice, quick, basic series if you want to get out of your home into the underworld and exploring some of the creepy crawlies and the political and faction warfare that we get to see break through the surface of this series. For this book, I think the conflict is pretty well done. It goes on throughout multiple books, but it also isn't too big of a thing to tackle for Suzanne. The characters, I really enjoy the diversity of the characters and how she creates a sort of new race of people, along with the animals that can be kind of a character of their own. And then for the setting, the underworld is something that a lot of us have probably seen before in like the center of the earth or underground Chicago with the sunken city and all that stuff. And she really brings it to life here. I can almost imagine being there and just falling down a tunnel and you're just, whoa, in a whole new world. And I think that's a great idea. She's really good at creating the setting, especially in the Hunger Games, and she does it well here as well. So I'm gonna rate this book, and go ahead and pick it up and read it. Tell me what you thought. So, next up, this is one of my personal favorites. It's a standalone book, and it's by Paul Rudnick. It's called Gorgeous. If you need a pick-me-up, if you need a sweet, satisfying, and romantic young adult book, this is the one for you. It brings tears to your eyes because of the underlying theme of beauty within, and that you don't need to change for someone to love you. Someone will love you for who you are. So Gorgeous follows this girl, her father, she never really knew her father, and her mother is very sick and on her deathbed. The main character's name is Becky, and she finds there's some trace of her father in this super famous designer who promises to design Becky 3 different dresses. When she puts on the dresses, she turns into a supermodel, beautiful, the most beautiful girl in the world, and she is now known as Rebecca. She somehow captures the heart of the prince, and things obviously start rolling from there. And alongside Becky this entire time is this figure, this father figure that is taking care of her and giving her these magical dresses that transform her into a beautiful woman, and also this seductive model. And slowly but surely, things start to change, and this figure actually teaches her this great lesson about how this whole time the dresses were not transforming her, it was actually just amplifying her inner self. And it's a really beautiful message. I really love how the story ends up. It's one of the best endings I've ever seen, and this is a twist. I did not expect what was going to happen in here at all, and I really enjoyed it. I think it's not a predictable book, which is what I want. I don't want a predictable book because then I could just write it myself, but Gorgeous is not predictable. It is a sweet, cute, and then a lesson learner, and it's also, again, pretty short read and not that expensive. Paul Rudnick, Gorgeous. I think the characters are beautifully developed, and we get to find out so many secrets about them towards the end. The setting, I think, works out fairly well. It's taking place in the big cities around the world, and I think the conflict is the best part of this book, because you're like, oh, the conflict is her and that she's actually an ugly girl and she has no personality, but no, it will change and it will surprise you and you will love this book. So I know it's a pretty short one, but pick it up just because of the message that comes across in this book. I think it's actually really worth it. One of my favorite books I read when I was younger, and the message still sticks to me today. Alright, I award it. Now last, but definitely not least, is the Michael Vay series. This is actually the one that I have to read next. I've read the first, 3, I believe. And if you love the classic experiment and kids with superpowers and an evil guy that tries to make use of their superpowers, this series is for you. This is exactly those 3 things all combined. There's a bunch of kids that somehow gained some electricity powers because of where they were born and this generator going wrong. And each one of them has something different. It ranges from being able to see in the dark to being able to shoot electricity out of your hands and control people's minds. It's really crazy, and I just love the variability with each character because each person brings something different, whether they're good or bad or change. That's one of the main things I think is really good about this series, is a lot of the people change and can change sides because they're kids. And some of them have been taught what it is to be on the bad side, and then they're introduced to the good side, and who wouldn't join the good side when you're gonna live? But this is a super entertaining series because all of these scenes and all of these things I've never seen before, I've never imagined before, and Richard Paul Evans takes us on a journey with these characters, with love, with loss, with the growth of powers and figuring out who these kids are. It's really inspiring to see, and it's got that classic evil rich guy villain that wants to be all powerful, and that makes the story work out perfectly well. Another good thing about this series is not everything goes right and not everything goes to plan for the bad guys or the good guys. I think that brings a lot of life to the story, and that's why the series is growing and getting more popular. You will really fall in love with Michael Vay and the Electro clan that he has created of these vigilante kids that have the electric powers. And really, no one in this story is worthless. Even if they have a power that's much weaker than one of the others, they're put to use and they're a family and they are strong and bonded together. I think it's great that there's a bunch of different people in the story. We aren't just following one person, even though it is Michael Vay's point of view. There's a bunch of different characters that come in and out, and we get to see people with powers, without powers, envious of the powers. There's a lot of diversity in what people want, and we actually get it all captured within these viewpoints. I'm a big sucker for kids overthrowing and having powers and figuring out who they are while their strength is growing, and it's a really confusing time just because you're going through puberty and you're also developing powers and feelings for other electricity people. I definitely recommend the Michael Vay series. This one is The Hunt for the Jade Dragon. I haven't started it yet, but I've read the first 3, and I just gotta say they are beautifully amazing, and Richard Paul Evans does the plot perfectly. The characters, again, beautiful, and also the diversity of who we get to see, even though we're only in first person. I think it works so well. Highly recommend this book. I'm giving it. Please go check out the series. Again, the books are pretty cheap, thin, and I know the last couple are hardback, so they are a bit more expensive. But once you get started on the first 3 and 4, you cannot stop, and you're gonna fall in love with the Electro Clan, and you want to know what happens next. Alright, so here is 3 young adult novels that you should definitely try. The novels, the series. Tell me what you think of them. Tell me if you've actually heard of them before, or maybe if you've read them. And I highly recommend starting up one of the 3 or maybe all of them if you're looking for something to read during quarantine. I hope you're all staying safe and being locked up with some nice books during this time, because I sure am, and whew, it's getting interesting. But alright, go ahead and check these out, and see ya!